Adriana and Jonathan Lytle were convicted by a jury. Their daughter was 4-year-old Summer Phelps. Jonathan was sentenced to 75 years in prison, effectively a life sentence for the 30-year-old. Adriana, the stepmother of the girl, the prosecutor's office asked the judge to impose a similar sentence in her case of 75 years. However, she pled guilty to homicide by abuse with aggravating circumstances. She was sentenced to 62 years. You see, in this video, we are going to look at two cases where the child services failed the victims. We have the case of Summer Phelps first, and then in the second case, a mother who poured gasoline on her children and lit them on fire. Yes, lit them on fire. So stay tuned for that one. So in this first story, the question remains, what did Adriana and Jonathan do that was so heinous to poor old Summer Phelps? Well, over 6 months in 2006 and 2007, Summer was mistreated, shocked with a dog collar, burned with cigarettes. She was denied food and dunked in cold water after being forced to stand in a bathtub for hours, washing urine-soaked clothes. Holy mackerel. Her red hair was pulled out in clumps and her body was covered from head to toe with bruises. She died on March the 10th, 2007, submerged in the family bathtub. Emergency room doctors and nurses who treated her testified during the trial that it was one of the worst cases of child abuse they had ever seen. The prosecutor said Lytle's crime was so heinous, involving trusting a 4-year-old whose father was her whole world, that it deserved the maximum possible sentence. When the judge imposed it, Summer's mother, biological mother, Elizabeth Phelps, slumped in her courthouse seat, whispering, "Thank God." This is in reference to Jonathan's conviction. She said, "I'm happy to know he'll never walk the streets again and will never hurt another child." She also said, "It will remain a mystery why Jonathan and Adriana cruelly abused Summer." Jonathan himself shed no light on that mystery. In a short, barely audible statement before he was sentenced, Jonathan told the judge he was not a bad person, but he knew he'd done something terribly wrong and that he hated himself. In a telephone call from a nursing home in Wyoming, where she lived, his mother, Janice Lytle, said her son probably has mental problems because she and her daughter both have suffered from mental illness. 3 victim impact statements were read before sentencing, written by Elizabeth Phelps, her sister Danielle Jones, and Summer's grandmother Deneen Phelps. Deneen Phelps of Australia said in her statement that she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder due to the shock of Summer's death and has had to take extensive time off work. She said she was close to Summer, holding her at her birth and taking 22-hour airplane trips from Australia to spend time with her in the state of Washington. She said, "It's a struggle some days just to get out of bed and get dressed." Elizabeth Phelps, who cried as she read her statement to the judge, said the loss of Summer is the hardest thing she's ever endured. She said, "Our lives were planned out the day Summer was born, but now they're all gone." The single mother said she trusted Jonathan and his wife Adriana when the couple persuaded her to let Summer come to the state of Washington to live with them temporarily in 2006. They argued it was a good time for Summer to get to know her infant half-brother Johnny. Elizabeth said, "They both gave me a hug and told me it is okay to take a break. They wanted her there." Big mistake, wouldn't you say? Now, there was a history of abuse towards Summer, and this abuse was reported to the Child Protective Services, also known as the CPS. I'm going to go through their reports with you now. So on December the 26th, 2003, CPS received a report from Summer's biological mother alleging that Jonathan was molesting Summer. Summer's mother said the girl suffers from diarrhea before visiting with her father, and upon her return does not want to be touched or have her diaper changed or cleaned. Summer's mother reported her diaper rash worsens after seeing her father, which is every Saturday. This referral was screened as information only and nothing was done. We move on to September the 1st, 2004. Again, Summer's biological mother contacted CPS, stating she found what she thought was a pubic hair in Summer's area. In addition, she said when changing her diaper the previous evening, Summer pointed to her area and said, "Daddy." Wow, that's quite damning. At the time of the report, Summer's mother was advised to take the child to the local sexual assault center or to her regular physician. Again, this referral was screened as information only. Now on April the 21st, 2005, CPS received a report from a local transitional living program regarding Summer's biological mother and concerns they had regarding decisions she was making on behalf of Summer. The referrer reported Summer's mother told them she had reported back in December 2003 fears that Jonathan was molesting Summer. In September 2004, the referrer spoke with Summer's mother again, who said she was concerned the child was being molested. The referrer stated that the mother was now back in their program and had told them she was considering letting Summer live with her father. The referrer asked the mother why she would consider this given her earlier reports of sexual assault. The mother responded that Summer likes her father's new girlfriend and would be better off living with her. Again, at that time, the girlfriend being Adriana. At the time of this referral, it was reported that Summer was living with her father. And again, this referral was screened as information only. And it's a fair question. Why would you agree for your daughter to go and live with the very person who you suggest is molesting her? Makes no sense, right? On June the 1st, 2005, Jonathan himself contacted the CPS and reported that his daughter Summer had been abandoned by her mother and had been living with him for the past 6 weeks. Jonathan was told that since he is the child's father, she is not considered abandoned. Jonathan stated Summer's mother continues to receive benefits on behalf of Summer. The CPS recommended that Jonathan contact the local community services office regarding benefit information, and he could contact the family court to pursue custody of Summer. This referral was screened as information only. Now, who knows who's telling the truth, right? The biological mother Elizabeth could have said, yeah, no problem, go to your father, and then the father could have lied to the local authorities by saying, well, the mother abandoned her. Who knows who's telling the truth? One thing we do know, that the entire situation is dysfunctional. Now on January the 24th, 2006, a child care provider reported to the CPS possible neglect of Summer. At the time she was 3, and this neglect came while she was in her mother's care. The referrer reported Summer comes to school with no coat or socks. On this particular day, she came to school with no underwear under her sweatpants. The referrer said that when Summer walks around, she has her hands in her pants, and when she goes to the toilet, she says, "Owie, owie," suggesting some kind of pain. On the day of this referral, while assisting Summer with toileting, the referrer noted her private area was red and she had a strong odor similar to being unwashed or possibly an infection. On the same day, the CPS called the referrer back and suggested they encourage Summer's mother to get her a medical exam. The purpose of this exam was to rule out pinworms or an infection and speak with her about appropriate hygiene. The referrer agreed to do so on the date the referral was received, and again, this referral was screened as information only. So you can clearly see the biological mother did not treat her right as well, and all this information is from official primary source documentation. Another referral was screened and assigned for investigation. It said Summer was not living with her father and stepmother at the time of this referral, although she moved into their home 3 months later. During the course of the investigation, the assigned social worker made collateral contacts with the referrer and the physician, and sent notifications to area hospitals that CPS would be involved with the family once the child was born. Adriana's child, that is. The social worker attempted a home visit with the family prior to the baby's birth. You see, at this time, Adriana was pregnant herself. Another child, not Summer. Jonathan refused the social worker entry to the home and would not allow the worker to speak with Adriana. On September the 19th, 2006, the CPS investigating social worker contacted the First Steps behavioral health specialist from the family program. She stated the nurse continued to provide services and the parents were doing well with the baby. Again, this is Adriana's newborn baby, not Summer. The behavioral health specialist asked the CPS investigating social worker about recent referrals regarding Summer, as she had recently moved in with the family and was now residing in the home. The CPS social worker provided a brief summary of referral history with the department, referencing the information only referrals received while Summer was in the care of her mother and when visiting her father. The CPS social worker shared the department's history and it showed no investigations or case assignments were made at the time the referrals were received. Provider reports indicated the family was cooperating and doing well, given the size of the home and the added financial stress since Summer came to live with them. Both the behavioral health specialist and nurse documented they did not observe any actions, behaviors or conditions that would warrant a referral to CPS. In other words, the complaints came when Summer was in the mother's house, but when she was in her father's house, everything seemed okay. Now the next CPS contact with the family was on March 11th, 2007, and this is when Summer died. Law enforcement was contacted by the hospital staff, and following an investigation, Jonathan and Adriana were arrested, and their surviving child was placed in protective custody. You see, Jonathan told police that Summer woke up and urinated in her clothes and on the floor. As a result, she was forced to wash the towels and clothes from 8:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. in the bathtub. A nurse was scheduled to check in on their home in the morning, so Jonathan took Summer for a drive so Summer would not disrupt the nurse's visit. Summer had many injuries, including a serious burn to her face. Police wrote that Jonathan told them he saw Summer sleeping with her face against the steam radiator in their apartment, and that's how the burn occurred. Police initially thought some of Summer's injuries might have been caused by sexual abuse. In police interviews, both Jonathan and Adriana told police that Jonathan had poked Summer in the buttocks with a mop handle to force her to stand up straight while washing clothes. The little girl had bruises from her thighs up to her head and had clumps of her hair missing. She could not be revived. Detectives found burn marks and extensive injuries. Doctors later testified that it was the worst case of child abuse they had ever seen. So between the two parents, she was mistreated, she was abused, and as far as I'm concerned, they are all guilty. However, because the death occurred in the house of Jonathan and Adriana, they were both sentenced to prison. Now we move on to the case of Maria Gardiner. Ashia Joseph died on the 28th of January 2008 as a result of smoke inhalation and thermal injuries because of a fire that her mother, Maria Gardiner, intentionally set at the family's residence. The manner of death was listed as homicide. Ashia's remaining siblings were seriously injured in the fire and were hospitalized. The extent of the children's burns on their bodies ranged from 20% to 90%. The victim's father, Mr. Joseph, he himself on the 9th of October 2007. This was the reason why Maria did what she did. She had reported that she felt responsible for Mr. Joseph's death, so let's look at the family's history. The family was originally referred to the CPS on the 4th of May 2004 for physical abuse to one of the victim's siblings by Mr. Joseph. There had been 7 referrals on the family, primarily for allegations of physical abuse. On the 4th of May 2004, a 5-year-old sibling of the victim had 5 cuts to his right forearm. These were 2 inches long. He had 3 cuts on his right thigh. They were 3 inches long, and 2 cuts on his back, which were 4 inches long. What the hell? Maria reported that she had received punishment from Mr. Joseph for trying to jump out of a window. Maria said she was outside when the child was disciplined by his stepfather, and she advised that this was the first time Mr. Joseph had ever used physical punishment. Maria denied any domestic violence or substance abuse. She also said that she had little confidence in child protective services, as they were involved with her family when she was a child. Maria and one of her sisters had been sexually abused by a brother, and 2 of Maria's sisters are currently involved with child services because of child protection issues. When questioned, the 5-year-old, he reported that he had gotten in trouble because he did not want to take a nap and was going to jump out of the window. He said that dad abused him. He said that he gets abused and has to do exercises when he gets in trouble. But he reported that this was the first time that he sustained any injuries. Joseph himself, when he was alive, was interviewed 10 days later on the 14th of May 2004, and he reported that this 5-year-old child has been getting into trouble at school because of a classmate who is a bad influence. On August 4th, 2004, a referral was made because a 4-year-old sibling of the victim, Ashia, had a bruise on the inside of his elbow. The report alleged that the 5-year-old sibling smelled of urine. The referral was assigned for assessment. In other words, they did nothing. The investigator saw all the children in the household. The children told different stories. Maria denied any physical abuse or domestic violence. Mr. Joseph was again interviewed by phone on the 13th of September 2004 and denied abusing the children. The hygiene issue was never addressed and the assessment was closed. On September the 10th, 2004, a referral was made for possible minor physical abuse to the 5-year-old sibling of the victim. He was observed to have a mark below his eyebrow. He had come to school with a black left eyelid. He and his older siblings told completely different versions of what happened. The 5-year-old reported that his mother threw a popsicle at him and it landed on his eye. This referral was screened out and there was no available information. On September the 25th, 2007, a referral regarding domestic abuse was received because Mr. Joseph allegedly shot at his wife in their yard with all the children present. He then left the home before police arrived. He died on the 9th of October 2007. And so far, everything that I've told you, right, is abuse primarily laid by the father to the children and the mother. What's astonishing is that even after he died, the safety assessment that the child services did, they found no safety concerns. Bro, what? In fact, this shooting that took place, the mother even denied that it happened. So the referral was closed on October the 10th, 2007 as inconclusive for medium physical abuse and medium environment injuries by Mr. Joseph. In other words, they could not be bothered to deal with it. He was dead, oh well. So on January the 23rd, in 2008, a referral was received from a community services provider stating the mother was making funeral arrangements for herself and the children. Her plan was very complete, including admitting if child welfare intervened, she would deny everything and then take all their lives. The mother reported feeling responsible for Mr. Joseph's death. A caseworker responded to the home as again they didn't see any safety concerns and let the issue go. Again, in January 2008, an unknown female gave the residential address of 3225 Galena Court, but did not provide information about the situation. You see, that house is located in the city of Colorado Springs in El Paso County in the state of Colorado. At the time, 911 operators heard a child saying, "Why did you kill him?" A child came on the phone and advised that oil was on fire. Everyone in the house was hurt and a 1-year-old was dead. Police and fire personnel were dispatched. Emergency responders identified multiple burned children and a deceased infant in the residence and extinguished an interior fire. All the children, ranging from 1 to 9 years old, were removed from the residence. A 5-year-old boy, primarily identified as Supreme Joseph, who is one of the siblings, had a cut-type injury to his throat. All 3 male children had some degree of burn injury, and it is unknown if the children suffered additional injuries. The cause of the child's death at the time wasn't known, but the child was described as charred. The other children were transported to area hospitals. 3 were listed in critical condition. Investigators also contacted a female party preliminarily identified as Maria, who actually ran from the scene. Maria herself had superficial injuries to both her wrists and to her neck. Maria was transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police then made contact with her at the hospital. The police said that while waiting for medical to arrive, Maria told them, without being asked, that she had poured gas and her children then lit them on fire. Maria at the time was being treated by the emergency department doctor, Mr. Fry. Dr. Fry told police that Maria had suffered superficial wounds to both wrists, both arms, neck, and left ankle. Dr. Fry said the wounds appeared to be self-inflicted and were not life-threatening. Police did observe Maria while in the emergency department and found the wounds to be consistent with what had originally been reported. Maria was admitted to the hospital for overnight observation. Once admitted, police conducted an interview with her. During the interview, Maria made the following statement. Maria said she had been unable to sleep or eat for the last few days. Maria said her troubles stemmed from her husband's death. Maria said prior to the occurrence, she and her 5 children were together in her bedroom. Maria said the baby was in the crib and she and the 4 older children were sitting on the bed. Maria said the children told her they could see daddy and that he was saying to them, "We are supposed to be together." Maria said she was tired of seeing her dead husband and didn't want to hear it. As a result of this frustration, she retrieved gasoline from the garage and poured gasoline on all of them. Maria said she ignited the gasoline using an already lit cigarette. Maria said a fire ignited in the bedroom, but that she didn't start the fire. She said since she didn't start the fire, she grabbed her scalpel and started cutting the children. Well, that makes no sense. But then she claimed something inside of her told her to call 911, which she did, because she knew she had done something bad. Well, that's generous of you. Police asked Maria what her intentions were when she started the fire. She said she intended for her and her children to die so they could all be together with her husband. Police noted that Maria never once asked about the welfare of her children. During the on-scene investigation, the victim Ashia was observed to have suffered severe burns covering most of the body. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene by Deputy Coroner Barbara on the 29th of January 2008 at 3 a.m. in the morning. Now for Maria, a judge sentenced her to prison for 85 years. Judge Timothy said, "You did a terrible thing." Maria herself pled guilty to child abuse causing death and 4 counts of child abuse causing serious bodily injury. She had earlier pleaded insanity but changed her plea. In a letter read during the hearing, one of the kids wrote, "I'm sad my sister is not with me. My right arm hurts and people look at me because I'm different. I have nightmares almost every night and I am afraid of the dark." He went on to say, "I'm scared my mom might come and do it again." Wow, this boy, right, who probably had a cut on his arm, is traumatized for life. Now, I can only imagine the impact that Mr. Joseph's death had on the family. Because of course, with all these child protective reports, with all these issues, very dysfunctional family. So Maria obviously wasn't happy anyway. But surely the answer isn't doing this. Surely, despite the frustration, now you have to raise all these kids by yourself. Who knows what their financial situation was? Surely the answer is not doing what you did. And even though, yes, she should go to prison, I don't care about Maria. Fuck her. What about these children? They are never, ever, ever gonna forget the images, the noises, the burns, the screams, the cuts from that night. Part of me thinks, I wish they watched this video so I can get in contact with them and then provide them whatever support they need. Comment, tell me what you think.